Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Chasing Hope with me, Catherine Abraham. Not too long ago, the world mourned the passing away of a famous Christian apologist, Ravi Zacharias. Not many know the reason why and how he became an outstanding theologian. When Ravi died, to be honest with you, I felt like I was one of the few who didn't really know him. I'd heard multiple preachers, teachers, and I have even directly communicated with a few international thinkers. But I felt lost with the kind of outpouring of affection that came for his family when they heard of his untimely demise. Out of curiosity, I googled his name and asked for videos that talked of his early life as a preacher. I must confess that the power with which he was delivering his message was completely inspiring, and I was left stunned that it had taken me so long to stumble on this particular theologian. It was around this time that I also happened to view an interview that he had given a college in Canada. It was in the course of this conversation that Ravi talked about how his life changed as a young 17-year-old who was so far thrown from faith that he had contemplated suicide and even tried his hand at it. The failure in taking his own life was God's way of guiding him for an unthinkable yet beautiful future. It was when he was in this hospital recovering that someone left a copy of the Bible on his bed. I generally think of people who have been inspired to take up God's work as people who have been naturally inspired to move in that direction. And then every once in a while, a story like Ravi Zacharias comes up. And that's when I ask myself, there are two roads. There are always two choices. What we decide, we become. And that was exactly what happened with this theologian. Because at 17, he had two choices. One was to go back to his wayward life, continue the path that he was on, and perhaps even terminate it or try to again. And then there was the second choice, which he chose to undertake, and that was to pick up the Bible and start reading. That was the turning point of this gentleman's life. Suddenly he was seeing a new ray of hope, a new reason to live. This is where the idea of faith crept in. God works in mysterious ways. A cliche, but very, very true in many people's lives, especially ones who have changed their lives completely thanks to one instance, one experience, and one chance encounter. God's mysterious ways are true when you listen to people share their faith and share their ideas of how they have met him along the way. Zacharias spent the summer of 1971 in South Vietnam, where he recalls evangelizing US soldiers as well as imprisoned Vietnamese Congress members. A couple of years ago, I met someone who told me about a young man who had all but lost his faith completely. After a while, he became a self-proclaimed atheist, one who could just not grapple with the idea that God exists and there is someone who controls this universe. One day, however, his child fell terribly ill. He went to every doctor, he tried every hospital. He gave all his money away to every medical practitioner who was willing to try. But the child was not healed. Suddenly, with all that money in his hands, he felt helpless, powerless, and very, very poor. The idea that with all the money in the world, he wasn't able to help his own son was killing him from within. He tried to get in touch with specialists and super specialists, and it was all brought to naught when one of the doctors politely took him to the side and told him that he should now choose to take the boy home. Their staying in the hospital was only increasing the costs, but there was nothing fruitful coming out of it. With a heavy heart, they packed the child's clothes and all the things that they had got from home. And as he was picking the frail body of his 6-year-old, the beady-eyed boy, with deep dark circles now, clutched at his shirt and asked, "Daddy, am I going to die?" The question had the young man taken aback, and as he hugged the tender body gingerly, rocking him to sleep, he wondered if there was someone who could save him. The next day, while they were at home thinking about what they could do next, they heard a soft knock on the door. The man opened it. A gentleman stood there with stoic grace as he introduced himself as a certain Pastor Daniel. "I was told that there is a young man who is sick here. I thought I'd come pray for him." Perplexed, the young man said, "But I didn't." As though sensing what her husband would say, the young boy's mother cut through and said, "Yes, Pastor, it is our son." She saw her husband's face go pale and then red as she ushered the gentleman in. The pastor spent some time with the child and prayed on him. As he was leaving, he reminded the couple that they should also get down on their knees and ask God to help the child. When he left, the man yanked his wife behind and said, "Who told you to call him? There is no God. You know I don't believe in God." His wife looked at him and replied, "I didn't call him either, but I know who sent him here." She gently eased herself off from her husband's grip and went off to the kitchen to finish cooking dinner. That night, she asked her husband to come and pray with her. Again, he resisted. He just didn't want to. He didn't believe in it. And that is when the lady, now on the verge of tears, said, "You've tried everything except going to the physician, the one physician who can help our child." These words seemed to touch the man as he got down on his knees and he heard his wife pray. They went off to sleep, and the next morning, the couple woke up to a loud thud. Thinking that something had happened to their child, they rushed to his room. To their surprise, not only was the child up on his bed, but his dark circles had completely gone. It was he who had jumped up and down, which made the noise. The young couple was happy and surprised. It is then that the woman whispered to her husband, "Do you now believe that there is a God?" The young man nodded in the affirmative as the child continued to play. A few weeks later, the child was completely cured, and the parents started hunting for this pastor. They never found him. After much hunting, they gave up. But even today, he is very much a part of their daily prayer. In the young couple's heart, he was no less than an angel. Rationalism has its own place, my friends, in the world. But it can never be an efficient substitute for faith, because it comes with its own limitations. God has given us wisdom. He allows us, He enables us to think, so that we can use our wisdom not to question Him, but instead to trust His wisdom when we ourselves have no answers. That is why rationalizing things can work in matters of human affairs. But when it comes to understanding the divine, we have to take a step back and leave some answers to divine timing. If Ravi Zacharias was changed, it was because of divine timing. You may reach late, but you must remember that God is never late. Even as I was preparing this particular podcast, I received an automated message which reads, "Everything you need will come to you at the perfect time." How beautiful and how timely. When we look at our lives through the prism of faith, we see abundance, happiness, and peace. But flip it to a more humane prism, and now we see hunger, poverty, death, darkness, and everything that overshadows the good. So the power to change is in your hand. Most importantly, it's in your mind. Because the day you decide to surrender your thoughts, to surrender who you are to God Himself, you will see yourself changing. You will see yourself metamorphosing from this little caterpillar to a butterfly of hope. So that when you move ahead and communicate with people, engage with them, interact with them, your positivity, your inner good will be radiated. The only way to overcome our own limitations and challenges is to believe that there is a God and He is working for us, with us, and within us. If we can accept, acknowledge, and move forward with this truth, a lot of our problems, a lot of our life's agonies will all be wiped away. This is certain. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Chasing Hope, and I do look forward to reading your suggestions, your comments, your feedback. You can write into us. You can log on to our website www.chasinghopewithkatherine.com, and you can also listen to our earlier episodes very freely. Please make sure to share your thoughts and opinions with us, because that helps us get better, and that will help us to be better and inspire more people. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.